Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if Betty Davis once said, never talk bad about the dead, and I don't want to talk bad about this guy. But he was sort of, not say a running joke in my era. Very rugged player, very determined on the ice. Probably the best fighter of his generation, according to many of our followers here at the podcast channel and NHL writers. But Don Maloney was part of probably one of the most one-sided trades in NHL history, one that brought Marcel Dionne from Detroit to the Kings and Maloney going from the Kings back to Detroit. Now, Dan Maloney unfortunately passed away in 2018, a big loss for the hockey community, especially Original Six fans, as he also played for the Maple Leafs for quite some time. Now, he first came to Major Province, ladies and gentlemen, for the Markham Silhouettes of the Metropolitan JHL in '68. Then he moved on to the very, very prestigious London Knights. And it was with London that Chicago had him on the radar, and he was eventually drafted 14 overall in 1970 after he had 66 points in 54 games. Now in '71 he split time. He stayed in the NHL with the Blackhawks for the whole season with 26 points. But in a very weird twist of fate, he was sent back to the CHL for seasoning in '72 and stayed there for the whole season. Now, after playing 2 seasons for the Blackhawks, he found himself on the roster of the LA Kings at the end of the '73 season and became one of their top playmakers and enforcers. Now, many hockey fans, again, consider him one of the greatest fighters in NHL history, up there with the Flyers' great Dave the Hammer Schultz. Now, the rocky moment between the two occurred in a game in LA on January 4th, '75, with Maloney allegedly getting the TKO. Now, but Maloney, of course, was more than a fighter. He had 2 big 27-goal seasons back-to-back with the Kings before the Dionne trade and after the Dionne trade. But injuries hampered him in '77 and '78. He found himself on the roster of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And let's put this in perspective. I want you to make your own opinion. Okay, this is just me. Maloney was picked up from the Kings for a second-round draft pick, a first-round draft pick, Errol Thompson, and another first-round draft pick. So 2 number 1s, a number 2, and Errol Thompson. Was that, Craig Mooney came back as well, but was that worth Dan Maloney from the Red Wings? Now, the Kings got for him Bart Crashley and Marcel Dionne. Coming back also was Terry Harper and a second-round draft pick. So when Toronto picked him up, there was 2 number 1s, a second, and Errol Thompson. Was he worth 4 players for Toronto? We would have been worth. Dionne should have been worth 4 players going for the Kings. So it was a very weird time. But Toronto was desperate for somebody that had a little bit more determination than Errol Thompson. And he had some pretty decent years in Toronto, but he eventually had the nickname of Baloney Maloney because, like bologna, it may taste good, but when it comes down to it, it's not high value. Giving up 4 players for 1 and only getting 20 goals a season. Still high penalty total minutes, still determined play. And actually, Schultz replaced Maloney on the Kings as their enforcer when, of course, the Kings had traded him to Detroit. Now, during his time with the Red Wings, he did live year-round in Southfield, Michigan, and his nephew, Trenton Bourque, was also drafted by the St. Louis Blues in 2017. Now, his later years, Maloney lived in the great Orillia, Ontario region, which is part of Barrie, and unfortunately he died on November 19, 2018, after a period of declining health at the age of 68. He did also give back to the NHL as a head coach. 85 and 86, he coached the Maple Leafs, and actually they got as far as the division finals in 86, but lost to St. Louis 4-3. With the Jets, he got them to the division finals in 87, of course, lost to Gretzky's Oilers. 88, he got them in the playoffs again, and 89, unfortunately, fired. Grand totals of the NHL coaching: 136, 193, 43 in 372 games, 11-14 in the playoffs, and like I said, upset Calgary in '87, defending Stanley Cup champions. And the NHL totals: 192 goals, 259 assists, 451 points in 737 games, with 1,489 minutes in penalties, and 11 games in the playoffs. And of course, helped Toronto play Montreal in the quarterfinal round in '78 after advancing past the preliminary round. So Maloney, for many trivia question, probably again one of the best fighters of all time. Nixon Master, I mentioned that in a previous post on our podcast channel. He's probably the fact that nobody wanted to fight him. You know you're a good fighter when nobody wants to fight you. But that right hand was just, pow. I don't know why the right hand punch in hockey is stronger than the left hand. Maybe it's because most people are right-handed. But I do remember, I think it was one against Durbano. Maybe it was still with the Kings or Detroit, where he hit Durbano really hard, high in the temple, and kind of the indent on his made a cut. Durbano, if anything, needed plastic surgery, so Maloney get him a little bit, was maybe a hint that he had didn't have a face for hockey. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. We do appreciate all the listeners. Again, give me a like, comment, or subscribe. Requests are taken and appreciated. And we're keeping with the hockey podcast recently because with the NHL playdowns, we're into the finals. So if you're a Stars or Tampa Bay Lightning fan, don't forget the playoff series start early. So the finals do start tomorrow night, which will be Saturday in the east coast of Canada, and technically Friday or Sunday, depending on the time, the international date line you're on. So thanks for listening. That's the story of Dan Maloney, also known as Snowshoes. Great nicknames. Have a good day. Bye.